Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show on this Friday, December the 16th, 2022. Thank you for tuning in. I'm glad to have you guys here. What can I say? This war in Ukraine just keeps raging on and on. Why it keeps raging on and on? I know you guys have heard this. War in Ukraine, war in Ukraine, war in Ukraine, war in Ukraine. And as past wars, like in World War II, as it raged on for years and years back in World War II, I'm sure our grandparents or our great-grandparents used to be like, they didn't listen too much anymore in the end. But the war did do a finale that was quite spectacular when mushrooms went off in Japan. Mushroom clouds. And we're talking about Nagasaki and Hiroshima. They did perk up and have some attention then at that point in time. But that was toward the end of the war. But this war rages on. And then they had the nuclear proliferation age, where we had mutual assured destruction, and we had the Cold War. And there was fear that another war would come along and would devastate the earth with devastating consequences of nuclear weapons. And we entered into the nuclear age, where both sides were bristling with nuclear weapons. Well, they still are. And this is the reason why you need to pay attention to this war. Unlike what happens when a war rages on and on, people are like, I don't want to hear that anymore. So I've heard enough of that. You know? That's why I'm paying attention to this war. Even though it's raged on for a long time, I still pay attention to the headlines. It is because of the danger of the nuclear age, and how I pay attention to what Russia's doing with this. We're going to get in there and we're going to open up the charts and take a look. Let's open the charts right here. It says, this is a Ukraine war live update. New Russian missile attacks are rocking the country. They're talking about Ukraine. And they're hitting the power grid. Another headline from Fox News, Russia launches major missile attacks on Ukrainian energy facilities, infrastructure, in multiple cities right now. So if you were in Ukraine, you'd be paying attention, because things are getting hot in Ukraine. And let's see NBC News here. It says Ukraine-Russian war sees U.S. mull. In other words, they're thinking about it, mulling it over. Patriot missile defense batteries for Kiev. And it says it's not enough. Why is this war raging on and on and on? I'm going to tell you guys why. Because Russia has moved in and annexed Crimea. That's a port city to the south of Ukraine. They did that years ago, way back in 2014. And they said, it's ours. They did a referendum there. Then they annexed regions in the eastern side of Ukraine. Eastern annexed territories. Up around Donbass and places like that. Now, it was pretty much accepted. Well, no, it wasn't accepted. But it was pretty much there. It was there. Let's call it that way. Not accepted, but there. That Crimea was Russian-held territory. Okay, before the war started. But now that the war is ongoing, Ukraine says, no way! We're not giving back 1 inch. We're not even giving back Crimea. We're going to come take Crimea back even. Right? Since the war started. We're going to take all those annexed territories back. They're ours. We're not giving 1 inch of territory. So they're not going to sign a deal with Russia if Russia keeps 1 inch of territory. And Russia's like, hey, this stuff's ours. This is ours now. You can't have it. This is ours. We'll fight till the last person is gone in Russia. We'll fight until the last breath that we have over this. And this is why this war is continuing. Because the two sides are at odds. And they can't find an even ground to stop the war. This is what makes this war dangerous right now, if you didn't know. And it's escalating. Because now that they're sending these Patriot missile systems, when near the start of the war, they were talking about no-fly zones over Ukraine. Well, Patriot missile systems is something that you use to establish a no-fly zone. I'll just say that much. It's something that you would use to establish a no-fly zone, and they're sending them in. And then now they're saying, it's not enough. Like this op-ed here. This thing. It says, given this opinion article, it says, given Ukraine a Patriot missile defense system is good, but it's not enough. What do you want to do more? What do you want to do more? Perhaps, I don't know, I'm just going to... What would be next? I mean, what would be next? A Patriot missile system. What would be next? Maybe some sort of missile system that is capable of being armed with nuclear warheads? Is that what's next? I just don't know. I'm asking the question. Okay? So see where this war is going? Oh, well, the United States is talked about, and I've heard them talk about things like if Russia uses a nuclear weapon, that they will destroy the Black Sea Fleet. The Russian Black Sea Fleet. Well, how's that going to go over with Russia if they destroy the Black Sea Fleet? Is that going to stop them from using more nuclear weapons? Bigger nuclear weapons? You see how this can escalate? Once the ball's rolling on this? So this is a very dangerous war. It's a war we need to keep our eyes on. And, you know, if that wasn't enough, entering into 2023, I'm going to talk about the financial... Honest to gosh, I mean, I got to tell you guys this stuff because now's the time to prepare, you know. And what I mean by prepare is, I mean, if you haven't done it already, clean out a closet in your house. And, you know, you need bottled water, you need a medical kit, you need food supplies, enough to last you quite a little while. And I mean... if it does turn out to be a nuclear war, God help us all. But, I mean, you need to prepare now for anything, because it could be financial. Now, I'm going to get into this a little bit, talking about the financials out there right now. And you need to prepare for that, too, because it looks terrible to me. We're going into next year. A recession's almost inevitable. And we've got leverage to the point where we can't have a recession. Or we end up with a 2008 scenario all over again. And then on the other side of that, hyperinflation. What's the world coming to? I mean, but you know what? For now, most people can't see any of this stuff. It's almost like if you had a tank in your backyard and you covered it up with one of those tarpaulins that's camouflaged. And nobody would know it's there. That's what this situation's like with what's going on in the world. It's like it's camouflaged. And people are living their lives like they've always lived their lives. But you know what? The Bible mentions something like this. In the Bible. I remember from things I learned when I was a young guy. You know. And it talked about... it said that the end of times... it said would come as a thief in the night, and nobody would be expecting it. You don't expect the thief to crawl in your window while you're fast asleep at night, do you? And that's what it described it as, like a thief in the night. A thief crawling in through the window while you're asleep. That's what the end would come like. Why would it come that way? Maybe it would be disguised to the very end, to the last day, to the last hour, and all of a sudden, boom! There it is, right in your face. And leaves you unprepared. Maybe the end times is coming to leave you unprepared, so that your friends and neighbors that listen to people out there who's telling them prepare. Maybe they'll be prepared, but maybe the people who are unaware and sleeping to it all, maybe they will be unprepared, and maybe boom, the end will hit them. And they won't know what hit them. They'll be sitting there in their misery with no water to drink. Well, I'm going to tell you guys what. It's not fun, but I mean, there is water in the back of your toilet. That'll last you a few days anyway. You don't want to drink that. I mean, come on. Wouldn't you rather have some nice fresh bottled water put away, spring water? Wouldn't that be so much nicer? You know? While your friends and neighbors, maybe they have to drink the toilet water. Well, anyway, today we're looking at silver price down at right at $23 today. It amazes me for 6,000 years that this has been the money of the people. And yet the price has been suppressed in comparison to dollars to almost what it costs to get it out of the ground. What a value. Tremendous value. Because I'm going to tell you what, if this crisis that occurs is something that takes down the internet on a more permanent basis, silver's always been money. It's fungible. We see how non-fungible things do. I mean, non-fungible tokens, what happened with them? No, for money, you want something that's fungible. Can you imagine all these people were baloneyed into these non-fungible tokens business? Money has to be fungible. This is one of the qualities of money. Real money has to be fungible. What does fungible mean? Well, it simply means that it acts as a barter for exchange because one unit is worth exactly the same as another unit. So that you can trade them back and forth. So your dollar, see, dollars are perfectly fungible. They meet that criteria of money. Where your dollar you have in your wallet is worth the same as somebody else's dollar that they have in their wallet. You know? So it's fungible. Well, that's one of the things of money. I list, and I haven't went over this for a while, but I list 3 properties of money. And what I consider, and I've done this for years, one is fungible, meaning that you can exchange them that way, and I've already explained that. Another thing is that it's a store of value. Something that you can put away in a safe for 20 years, pull it out of the safe, and it still has the value that it had when you put it in the safe, or something similar value. It doesn't lose value so quickly that it's... And the third property I list, these are my properties of money. I know you might have heard of properties of money from somebody else, but these are my 3 properties of money and what I consider money. The third thing is rarity. So the dollar, that passes the first test of money, fungibility. Passes it perfectly. Store of value, yes. You can put dollars away in a safe and years later they're still worth something. So it is a store of value. But the third aspect of money, it fails, utterly fails. And this is why the dollar's going to fail. Because the dollar, it just can't meet that scale of rarity. It's not rare when they can make as many of them as they want. What's rare about that? It doesn't meet that criteria of money. That's one of my 3 criterias. Now, cryptocurrency does. Bitcoin meets all 3. It's rare. But the problem with Bitcoin is, if the internet goes out, then use your Bitcoin. I mean, I'm talking about the whole World Wide Web going down. But now, gold and silver and stuff for a crisis currency, they are the ones to have, because if the internet goes out, they're going to automatically, people have to exchange. They have to go back to a means. What they'll have at first, if the system goes down, we go into some sort of a world that you're not familiar with at all. As time goes by, they will have to figure out some way of doing exchange. At first it'll be barter, but then later it'll change over. They have to have some sort of currency, and because the world is in a state where there's no power grid anymore, they'll probably have to go back to gold and silver, or the same thing they've used for thousands of years. I just see that, you know. I mean, this is obvious to me if that's what happens. And if we have a nuclear war, it's not going to be the end of mankind, probably not the end of mankind. The militaries around the earth will probably keep the nuclear reactors up and running, or stabilize them somehow. The power grid will probably go down worldwide in every country on earth, and there'll be tremendous damage. Probably there'll be a loss of life actually in the billions. Probably lose 3-4 billion people, maybe more, before everything's up and restored, and it'll probably be a number of years before the world is back running again. But humanity will come back from that. And ultimately, it'll come back and it'll be a new type of system that'll be established, and it won't be a system where Bitcoin's going to be supreme. In a nuclear war, Bitcoin's not going to be the supreme. The supreme currency is going to be gold and silver. And we'll end up going back to a means of exchange where you have it in your wallet and you hold it in your hand and you exchange it with the other guy for whatever you're buying. But the value of gold and silver will be exceedingly high if that happens. And I hate to say it, but I mean, we're on the road there. Now, what would a nuclear war look like? I'm just going to get into this real quick because it's important to talk about, guys. Probably for you is you'd probably wake up in the morning and everything is dead silent. You probably won't see any mushroom clouds or anything. You get out of bed and you go up to the kitchen table and your phone's sitting on the kitchen table and it's dead. Dead as a doornail. You won't even be able to get it to come on. You'll say, well, this thing's fully charged. Tap, 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 tap it on the screen. It's fully charged. This thing should run. Well, that's the effect of the EMP. It's just fried all the circuitry in your phone. You go out to get in your car, and your car won't start. The lights won't even come on. There's nothing. Dead. Again. Your computer, your desktop inside your house, dead. Everything's dead. Your lights are all dead, and it's quiet as hell. And you're like, what in the hell is going on? So you go over to your friend's neighbor's house, you knock on the neighbor's door, he comes out, say Fred. He says, Fred, what, do you know what's happening? No, I don't know what's happening. He's like, everything's dead in my house. Well, and then what you'll do is, you'll sit around waiting for days, wondering what's going on. What's going on is probably several key cities in your country have been hit. And probably most of the nuclear weapons have hit the silo areas in your country where they store the nuclear weapons. That's where most of them have hit. And so, but probably a number of key cities too have been hit. And the people who's in those cities didn't know what hit them. Boom, 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 boom. Right? And it's over. Same thing happened in all the countries around the earth that are nuclear countries and a lot of other countries as well. And everything's down. Internet's down, phone lines are down, everything, the power's down, and it ain't coming back on, sorry. And you're going to be thinking, see, this is the thing, you're going to be not knowing it's a nuclear attack at all. You're going to be like, what the hell happened? You're going to notice the sky's kind of dusty and stuff, you know. And if you stay outside too much in that, you might get sick in the coming weeks or whatever. So stay inside. If that happens, make sure you stay inside your house. At least for the first 48 hours or so. Stay inside. Especially if the sky's dusty. You might notice that the sky becomes quite dusty. In other words, the sun's kind of blotted out up there. Well, there's fallout happening. But they'll all be quiet. There won't be any noise or anything. Except for maybe people mulling around, you know. Right? Well, that'll happen. In 2 weeks, you'll be waiting for news on what happened, how you can get out of this situation. You're not going to be able to get out of this situation. You're going to be stuck at home. 2 weeks is going to go by, and then you're going to notice your friends and neighbors are going to start doing things that are bad. Very bad. I'll just say very bad. Right? And at that point in time, you need to protect yourself and protect your family. From then on, from that 2 week period on. And as it progresses into this, as 6 months goes by, looking 6 months in, the people that are doing the bad things are going to be the ones that survive doing the bad things, and they're going to be very professional at what they do. They're going to be very evil and very bad. But after a longer period passes, after you're 9 months into this thing, then things will have changed. There'll probably be a power grid restored in certain areas. Certain areas will be up and running, and certain areas will still be down. And what's probably going to happen eventually, after looking out like 4 or 5 years into this thing, there's going to be areas that are restored and are going into high technology, and other areas where they're never going to restore them because there's too much radioactivity, or maybe it's just too hard to restore the grid in those areas, and those areas are going to be what I call the wastelands. Okay, so the situation that I've described, you know, this is a bad situation, but ultimately mankind will survive through something like this. So this whole thing about mutual assured destruction. Maybe they had enough weapons back during the Cold War when Russia had like, I think they had 60,000. Now they got like 1/10 of that many. Because of the nuclear arms proliferation and then what came later with the nuclear arms dismantling of their nuclear arsenals that occurred during the period when after the Cold War ended, they've got the nuclear weapons down to the point now where some of mankind would probably survive. Like during the Cold War, there's a period there where nobody would have survived it. It was like the United States, I think, they had so many that they would have blown the earth to bits. But now they've got the numbers down to the point where they won't blow the world to bits, but they will kill billions. That's the way it is. So anyway, we're going to move on. Dow Jones Industrial Average is down 389 points. Like I say, the markets right now are abysmal. You know, totally abysmal. 32,816 for the Dow. And it's going to get bleaker as we move into 2023. I can't see anything but misery coming until the Fed stops this. It's just lunacy. And they're not going to stop the lunacy until things get really abysmal. Then things will turn around. So this has lasted longer than I thought it would last, and probably going into 2023 it's going to last, maybe last longer than I think it's going to last. I only think it's going to last the first quarter, but maybe it'll move into the second quarter before things turn around. But we'll be in a recession when things turn around. I'm almost guarantee you we'll be in one very powerful recession / depression when the Fed turns things around, when they start the printers up again, you know. And that's going to come. So we're on our way down now, guys, and this time I don't think we're going to bounce back. Down 386 today. Crude oil's down $1.99 at 74.12. Now the move index is just plain stupid at 111.26. Just plain stupid. This. I'm starting not to trust this index because it's going too low here. There should be volatility out there because we're in a crisis situation. And what? They're saying everything's fine? Down, you know, I mean, 111.26. Bonds and rates today. We're looking at rising yields today on the bonds. Looking at the U.S. 20-year, on a 30-year at 3.55. It's up 5.7 basis points. And the U.S. 10-year is at 3.5. It's up 5.4 basis points. Now the dollar index is at 104.60. And it's going along sideways. Thank you guys for listening to my show. Like and subscribe. And we'll catch you guys in the next episode. And guys, have a great day. Bye-bye.